gentlemen, please be upstanding for the worshipful the Mayor.
Good evening. Please remain standing whilst my chaplain says prayers. If anybody does not wish to be present, you may leave the room and we'll call you in before the formal meeting begins. Thank you.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we stand on the cusp of this new mayoral year, we give thanks for the representative role of the office, as the Mayor represents Her Majesty the Queen in this borough, and as a representative of elected democracy. We give thanks for all those council officers that support the office and those outside the council that also support the office. And Father, we give thanks for the formation of new committees, and we give you thanks that you have brought us to this place to serve the residents of this borough in fairness and equity. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. Do some housekeeping. There are no fire alarms scheduled for this evening. Therefore, if the fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately. The fire exit is located at the rear of this room. Go down the stairs and meet in the War Memorial Park. And please note that this meeting is being webcast live on the internet. May I also ask you to please switch off your mobile phones or turn them to silent. Thank you. We turn to item 1, and that is to elect a mayor for the ensuing year. Okay. Could you just please make sure that you've put your cards into the machine at the front of you so that your votes will show up throughout the evening? Right, we will now elect the Mayor for the year 2016-17. Do I have a nomination for Councillor Mrs Frankham?
Madam Mayor, yes.
Councillor Hood?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my pleasure to nominate Councillor Jane Frankham to be the Mayor for the years 2016-2017. And I'm sure she's the right person for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. And is that seconded? Councillor Gardner? Thank you. So that's proposed and seconded. So we'll now leave you just to entertain yourselves for a few moments whilst we do the business. Is that agreed? Sorry. Agreed.
gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Worshipful the Mayor.
Councillor Mrs. Jane Frankham, can I ask you to undertake the Mayor's declaration for the acceptance of office?
Thank you. I, Jane Frankham, having been elected to the office of Mayor of the Basingstoke Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you. Right.
Please be seated.
Be seated.
Yeah.
Please be seated. And gentlemen, if anybody's hot and wants to take their jacket off, please make yourself comfortable. Right. Now we call on.
For nominations for Deputy Mayor.
Right. I'd like now, as my first duty, to call for nominations to appoint the Deputy Mayor. Have I? Yes, Councillor Mrs. Wedgebrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Frankham for Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my pleasure to second the nomination of Councillor Paul Frankham for Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that agreed?
Right, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Big grin from proud mum.
Councillor Paul Frankham, can I ask you to complete the Deputy Mayor's declaration for the acceptance of office?
I, Paul Frankham, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of Basingstoke and Deane Borough Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and abilities.
Here's your space.
Now,
Congratulations.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. I now go to item 5, which is apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence?
Councillor Terry Reid.
Councillor Terry Reid.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Clive Pinder and Councillor Rob Musson.
Thank you. Are there any other apologies? Councillor Tilbury.
Thank you, Madam. Apologies from Councillor Cubitt.
Thank you. That's noted. Right, item 6, declarations of interest. No declarations of interest. Okay, then we go to item 7, which is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of March 2016. Are you all agreed? Right. Item 8 are my announcements. First, may I welcome all the new councillors and all the returning councillors, and look forward to us all working together. I'd also like to remind all councillors, both experienced and new, that I do have a hearing impairment, and would ask you to expect this by talking clearly and into a switched on microphone. I'd also like to take this opportunity to point out that I can only hear one person at a time, so please try and keep down any background noise. And thank you very much. And my last announcement is the Chief Executive will do an update to the councillors on the devolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got a short announcement on devolution. Madam Mayor, in relation to discussions on devolution, I would advise members that a comprehensive update report has been placed on the agenda for Cabinet meeting on Monday the 16th of May under the Council's urgency provisions. In accordance with these provisions, that report has been circulated to all members. The report in question is comprehensive in nature and extends to some 130 pages. Subject to the views of Cabinet on Monday the 16th of May, it is intended that this report forms the basis of a comprehensive update report to full Council on Thursday the 26th of May for debate. I would also confirm that I have written to all group leaders offering to attend scheduled group meetings on Monday the 23rd of May to discuss the issue of devolution, to clarify any issues and answer any questions that members may have. It should be emphasised that no binding decisions or commitments have been entered into to date. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
9, sorry, thank you. Item 9 is questions from the public, and I've been noted one. Mr. Heath, would you like to come forward to the mic?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps I should be perhaps the first to congratulate you on your appointment to the position of Mayor, and I'm sure you'll be as hard-working and diligent and successful as the previous Mayor. But so I'll just add that. But I just wanted to perhaps bring on follow up from what the CEO has just said and mention the issue of devolution. Now that's probably going to be the biggest change in 50 odd years, and certainly perhaps in my lifetime of local authority structures. Indeed, given my age, it's probably the biggest change for almost everyone in this chamber. And perhaps put some brief context to my question, that last year, the local authorities, all the local authorities in Hampshire, including HCC, submitted a proposal for devolution. And all of them agreed that we should not have a directly elected mayor. But then, of course, the position seems to have been changed. And indeed, Basingstoke Council agreed to that as well.
Mr. Heath,
yep.
could I just interrupt for a second? You only have 2 minutes. Would you like to ask your question? You've literally only got a few seconds left.
Okay, so my question is very simply this. Bearing in mind that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting on the 1st of September 2015 recorded that the leader of the council stated that there was little support or commitment to an elected mayor, how can he justify potentially agreeing to a devolution deal proposal at the forthcoming Cabinet meeting on the 16th of May this year that is predicated on accepting a directly elected mayor to be imposed in May next year and a combined authority when this council's stated position is it does not support such a proposal? Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Would the leader like to answer the question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and may I thank Mr. Heath for his question, even if we didn't hear all of the introduction to it. I think it is made very clear in the paper for next Monday's Cabinet meeting that no agreement to any devolution deal is being sought at that meeting, with or without an elected mayor, and that no binding decisions or commitments have been entered into. I have made it abundantly clear from the outset of this process that any decision to enter into a combined authority and associated devolution arrangements will be a matter for this chamber, and the Cabinet paper very clearly restates that position. Mr Heath refers to me expressing that there was little support or commitment to an elected mayor. I have reviewed the webcast as well as the minutes of the meeting, and at the time the discussion was in relation to the wider Hampshire and Isle of Wight geography, and my comment was that I had not met anyone who was much in favour of a directly elected mayor for that area, and I still haven't. As it transpired, I was proved right, and the discussions for a combined authority for the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, partly, though not entirely, founded on that issue. But what Mr Heath fails to mention was I also said at that time that all governance options should be explored, and I would still adhere to my belief that it would be best for the residents of this borough for us to maintain an open mind and see how matters develop, rather than rushing to adopt premature positions without a solid base of fact. Remaining part of the process is key to that. For the record, contrary to what Mr Heath states was the case, it is also worth noting that this chamber actually took no position on the issue. What it did agree was that the council, I quote, "Council endorses that local discussions on the devolution of powers and responsibilities from Whitehall as a positive development in delivery of public sector services, and that the leader and chief executive continue to work alongside colleagues in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to develop a model for devolution which meets local needs." That is what we've been doing and reporting back to members on at some considerable length, both through written updates in council and in members' workshops over the intervening months. What has become apparent over those months, though, is that this process has been developing, and as it's developed, there has been a hardening in the government's position towards directly elected mayors. Late last year, James Wharton, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State at the Department for Communities and Local Government, at a meeting with leaders of Hampshire authorities, made it very clear that any devolution deal was unlikely without a directly elected mayor. This position was reinforced by the amended terms of the Cities and Local Government Act, which became law earlier this year, which requires there to be a mayor for there to be a transfer of certain powers from central government. And it has been further reinforced by a recent letter from the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government to all local enterprise partnerships, emphasising that bids for future growth deals that, and I quote, "that are aligned with mayoral combined authorities or proposed combined authorities will have an advantage." To access the powers and the money that can be devolved through a devolution deal, a directly elected mayor is now an essential component, whether we like it or not. It can also be observed from the devolution process to date from the devolution process to date, whilst initial discussions are undertaken with the DCLG, the ultimate decision-making department in government is the Treasury. What we have also come to understand is that local authorities considering coming together to form a combined authority do not get access to the Treasury to begin discussions unless the potential for an elected mayor is put on the table. Therefore, to test government's appetite for doing a combined authority deal with our area, and to elicit a response from government in general and the Treasury in particular, I agree with the leaders of Hart and Rushmore, Winchester, Test Valley and New Forest councils that a non-binding letter could be sent to government which includes the possibility of a directly elected mayor. We are currently awaiting a response and will report back to members as soon as we have one. But I would reiterate the comment in the Chief Executive's earlier announcement that no binding decisions or commitments of any sort have been entered into. No agreement to a devolution deal is being sought at Cabinet next Monday, and that Council will have a comprehensive report on progress to date to consider at its meeting on Thursday the 26th of May, when I'm sure that this and many other aspects of devolution will be fully discussed. Devolution is, however, nothing if not a fast-moving topic, and there is one late piece of news which may radically change the way that things develop. You will remember that there was considerable concern, not least from Hampshire County Council, about the way that the Solent bid was launched directly with government without any consultation with other partners. In considering a Heart of Hampshire deal, all the districts involved have sought to work openly with HCC in our discussions. However, I am now given to understand that at tomorrow's HCC Council meeting, the leader will be announcing a consultation on future options for local government in Hampshire. A report that he has commissioned from Deloitte has indicated that a unitary structure could have significant financial benefits in terms of reduced council tax and savings. He therefore proposes to consult on the options of replacing the two-tier system of governance in Hampshire with a unitary one. I should point out that at no stage has he mentioned the pursuit of this alternative in the discussions on the Heart of Hampshire bid, and it's therefore not been possible to consult other districts on this. Indeed, I would doubt that many will even be aware of this possibility. Clearly, we will seek further clarification and would expect to be involved in the co-design of any consultation that takes place. But in terms of local government reorganisation, the genie is now out of the bottle. As members are aware, we have already begun evaluation of the options for unitarisation, either as a borough on our own or in partnership with others. It may well be that in the light of this announcement, we will find that others, more willing than before perhaps, to consider the unitary option with us. As always, this is a fast-moving picture, and there is little more that can be said tonight, other than we will keep members fully informed as we gain clarity on the situation. There has not been any time to evaluate the impact this may have on what decisions we may choose to make in Cabinet on Monday, nor whether it will still be relevant to hold the debate at Council on the 26th. But I imagine the question will come back here if the subject that was originally intended to be discussed may be slightly different. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr Heath, do you have a supplementary?
If I may, and I've been advised if I stand up you might be able to hear me, so I will stand up. Yeah, many thanks for that, Councillor. That was very useful. Just perhaps a brief supplementary question, and it seems to me that we're almost sort of playing with words. Devolution, I thought, was about more control, more accountability for the people of Basingstoke, and indeed this chamber. But it seems that devolution is almost going to deliver the opposites. We might have the danger of, I don't know, an elected mayor from Romsey, supported by a cabinet from various parts of Hampshire, making major decisions about the people of Basingstoke. So my question is, so can the leader explain how a combined authority will lead to more accountability, more control, and more say, both for the people of Basingstoke and equally importantly for this chamber? Thank you.
Leader, would you like to come back?
Yes, that is quite a long and deeply philosophical question, I think, which would take considerable time to answer fully. The principle of devolution is that powers currently residing with the government are devolved from government down to organisations of whatever form that are closer to the people in the locality where they live. Therefore, decisions which are made, for instance, on skills, on transport, on various other aspects, on roads planning, etc., which are made within central government currently, would come down to whatever local structure is put in place. At the same time, part of the bid which we put forward was that some aspects of government that is carried out, for instance, by the county council can be devolved down from the county council down to the district councils. That has to be, both sides of that have to be a matter of negotiation going forward, but the principle very clearly is that we try to push responsibility for decision making on areas where it is most appropriate to make those decisions as close as possible to where those services are delivered and to the end users. Now, it will not always be the case that you might want to make decisions on things like health and social care, but that might not be at a district level or even at a parish level. That might not be the most appropriate level to get economies of scale and to ensure that you've got a robust organisation capable of doing that. But that is the intention of trying to do that. Whichever organisation you have to do that, to bring this about, has to have some form of governance. It has to, because money passes hands, there has to be accountability for that money, and because decisions have to be made, and there has to be a democratic way of making those decisions, or at least a system within the democratic process that makes those decisions. And that is what we have been discussing and discussing and discussing. And I think it became clear in the discussions on the Isle of Wight and Hampshire deal that it was just too big, and that there was very little similarity between the interests of ourselves and a lot of the northern boroughs and districts and those in the Solent area. And therefore to combine the two was not a workable option. What we are now examining is whether it is possible to just take those northern areas and the other rural areas to the south, like New Forest, where there is a much greater commonality of interest and where we're already working together within the EM3 LEP, and to see if that can be moved forward as an alternative means of delivering those benefits. That's the principle of devolution. That's what it attempts to achieve. I would be the first person to say that we haven't got there yet, and that I don't even certain we're ever going to get there. But that at least is what the intention is and what we are trying to achieve. Underlying that, of course, there is the whole question about whether local government, as it is established at the moment, is viable in the long term, financially and operationally. And I think there are big question marks about whether two-tier government actually is the best way to deliver services to local people. But you have to make sure that you do not fall into the trap of becoming another West Berks or another Portsmouth or another Isle of Wight that are teetering all the time on the brink of financial difficulties. If we were to do anything, we need to make sure that what we have is a robust situation when we can be certain of not just delivering what residents already have, but of bringing about an improvement in those services.
Thank you, Leader. Oh, Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I start by congratulating you on your election as Mayor? The point of order really is based on the issue.
Councillor Keating, what point of order is it, please? What number?
The point of order is in relation to 11.9 of the Constitution, references of questions. This Council wrote to government last Wednesday, the day before the elections, and said to government, we are prepared...
Sorry, it's not an opportunity for speech.
No, I'm just introducing and explaining why I have a 11.9 point of view. Having written to government to say we're prepared to accept an elected mayor, the leader has suggested that we haven't. It's in writing, it's actually reported in today's issue of the Municipal Journal. The reality is we have written. The issues raised by Mr. Heath are so important, that in accordance with the Constitution, 11.9, I am proposing that this particular question and the issues associated with it are referred by this Council to the Scrutiny Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that you come to the question, I understand. Is that seconded?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, I'm happy to second that. And I would add, as Chair of Scrutiny, we would welcome a discussion on that at our next meeting. So we're very happy to have it referred, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that agreed then that goes back to the Scrutiny Committee? Yes. Obviously some dissension there, so I'll call for a vote.
Those in favour?
Those in favour, would they please raise their hands? Right, thank you. And those against, please. That was 28 versus 31. I'm sorry that you had lost. And there are no abstentions.
Yeah. Motion is lost.
Yes, the motion is lost. Now the next item is petitions. I've not been involved with any petitions. So we then go to item 11, which is the membership of the cabinet. Sorry, I do apologise, and I'm telling everybody else about using mics. I do apologise. Right, the next one is membership of cabinet. So would the leader like to announce his cabinet?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's as per the update sheets.
Right. Then we will go to item 12, which is the allocation of seats to political groups. Are we all agreed with the paperwork? Yeah. Sorry, appointment of committee. If all are you agreed, what's on the update sheets? Yeah. Then we go on to item 14, which is the election of the committee chairman, and I will call for proposers and seconders on each committee by name. Right. First of all, the scrutiny committee. Have we a proposer and seconder?
I'd like to propose Councillor Nigel Pearce for the chairmanship of scrutiny.
Right, is that seconded? Right, seconded by Councillor all agreed? Right, next then is the Economic Planning and Housing Committee. Have I a proposer for the chair?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose Councillor Joe Smith.
Right. Is that seconded? All right. Thank you. Is that all agreed? Right. Now we go on to Community and Environment and Partnerships Committee. Have I proposed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose Councillor Rob Golding.
Have you a seconder? Seconded. Right. Is that all agreed? Which is the Mannydown Overview Committee. Have I a proposer? Councillor Reid.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose Councillor Rebecca Bean.
Is there a seconder? Right. Right. Is that all agreed? All right. Next we have Development Control Committee. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I'd like to propose Councillor Paul Miller.
Is that seconded? Seconded. Is that agreed? Right. Now we go to Licensing Committee. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Madam Mayor again. I'd like to propose Councillor Diane Taylor.
Right. Is that seconded? Who seconded? All right. Councillor Putty. Oh, sorry, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Right, next we go then to the Human Resources Committee. Have we a proposer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose Councillor Laura Edwards.
Seconded by Stell. Is that all agreed? Right, then we go to Audit and Accounts Committee. Do I have a proposer?
I'd like to propose Councillor Roger Gardner.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. And is that seconded? Seconded by Councillor Putty. Is that agreed? Sorry, then we come to the Standards Chairman.
Madam
Right,
Mayor.
Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to nominate Mr. Peter Moore.
Thank you. Please.
And I second that, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Putty. Is that all agreed? Thank you. Right, now we come to item 15, appointments to joint bodies. I think it's all in the paperwork. Are we all agreed?
It's got to do them individually. It's a vote.
Okay. Yeah, I believe. Yes, I can see. Shall we take the Joint Money-Down Committee? There are 4 councillors. So is that agreed as on the update paper? Agreed. Right. The second is the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police and Crime Panel to appoint the main representative, and we have 3 names and obviously one place. So can we have the votes for Councillor Gavin James?
Show of hands.
Sorry. By show of hands, sorry. I propose to do show of hands on all matters that we can do. Right. Right. Pardon?
So thank you. So show of hands for Sean Keating.
Right. We then go on to a show of hands now for Councillor Sean Keating. Right. And now finally the show of hands for Councillor Bound. Simon Bound, sorry. I keep on forgetting, you know. Right, so that's right. Right, so that's Simon Bound with first place, and then yes, Simon Bound 31 votes, Sean Keating 18, Gavin James 7. So Simon Bound would be the main representative. Would the Councillor Keating and Councillor James like to both go forward for the deputy? Councillor James says no, so that automatically then Councillor Keating would be the deputy.
Yeah.
No?
If I may, Madam Chair, the deputy would only attend in the event that Councillor Bound doesn't. And on a rational analysis, he is likely to attend most of the time. And therefore, being a deputy would have little value. But can I just make a point? Having read the terms of reference for the Police and Crime Panel, I understand that the panel has the discretion to co-opt onto itself 3 additional members in order to contribute to a politically balanced panel. And on that basis, I would ask that my name be put forward instead of a deputy as a co-optee. Obviously, that decision has been made by the panel itself, but I'm asking for my name to go forward from this council as a co-opted nomination. Thank you.
I think I just need to take some advice on that. I want to be sure. Thank you. Right, can I first and foremost then confirm that there are no councillors that wish to stand actually for the deputy? Right.
In the absence of any other candidates, I'm prepared to put myself forward.
Right, is that seconded? Is that agreed? Right.
Yes, that's it.
And then what about on the panel?
Well, we're done because we've got the 2 posts filled. That's it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I think they want clarification.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I think if you want clarification, I will actually ask the leader to give clarification, please, or the legal.
It will be for the panel. It will be for the panel in due course in the context of making sure that things are politically balanced to address the issue of co-optees. Where we are at the moment is seeking nominations in respect of councillors for the main representative and for a deputy, and both those posts have now been filled.
Yes, you can come back if you want clarification.
Thank you very much. I have no dispute whatsoever with what the Chief Executive has said, because I refer to that in my introduction. It was for the panel to decide, and I accept that. But when the panel meets, it will have to consider, do they need people for political balance? We've already got a position whereby we have a Labour Party nominee to go on to the police and crime panel, and all I'm asking is, if at that time they're looking for a balance, that my name be put forward on behalf of this council.
That's noted, Councillor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We now go to the Crime and Disorder Joint Scrutiny Committee, where there are 3 members and 3 members have come forward. So are you all agreed on those 3 members? Thank you. Right, item 16 now. Right, now item 16, which is appointment to outside bodies, which, yeah, I'm going to take on your papers in yellow first, and is that where there are more nominations than seats, so there are votes required. So we'll start with the Anvil Arts, where we have 1 to be appointed, and we have Councillor Pearce and Councillor Tucker that have put the names forward. So all those for Councillor Pearce, please show hands. Right, and now for Councillor Tucker. Right, that's 31 for Councillor Tucker and 23 for Councillor Pearce. So Councillor Tucker takes that position. Next is the AWE Local Liaison Committee, where you have 2 votes. And the nominations are Councillor Mbound, Councillor Gardner and Councillor Richards. So with 2 votes, I do Councillor Bound first, please. Right, have you got the numbers? Right, next is Councillor Gardner. And finally, Councillor Richards. (31) again. Right, that's Councillor Gardner and Councillor Richards, both with 31, and Councillor Bound with 25. So it's Councillor Gardner and Councillor Richards. Next we have the Basingstoke
Madam Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Mayor, why aren't we using the electronic voting?
Because I've chosen to use my hand.
And it's quicker.
And it's a lot quicker. Thank you. And quite frankly, more efficient. Right. Basingstoke Air Cadets We have two nominations, Councillor McCormick and Councillor Miller. So those for Councillor McCormick, please show.
Okay.
And those for Councillor Miller, please show. I'm assuming it's 31.
29.
29. All right. Right. Clearly there must have been some abstentions on there. In the call for abstentions.
Call for abstention? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's
Just call them. Okay. Councillor Miller 29, Councillor McCormick 25. Councillor Miller has that. Right. Next, then we have the Basingstoke District Sports Trust, and that's Councillor Mark Taylor and Councillor Bean. So those for Councillor Taylor, please show. Right, and those for Councillor Bean.
Can you just ask for clarification? Is Councillor Putty voting or not?
Yes. Just for clarification, Councillor Butty, are you voting or abstaining?
Madam Mayor, because I'm a trustee, I've got an interest, so I'm not.
Right. Councillor Bean 30, Councillor Taylor 25. That's Councillor Bean. Right. Next, over page. Yes,
Just before you move on the Basingstoke Musical Festival, there is a spare vacancy there. Could I nominate Councillor Andrew McCormick for that third vacancy?
Yeah, we're doing the blue ones last. I'm doing them by colour.
I didn't want to miss.
All right, thank you. Right, next is Enterprise First. We have Councillor Cousins and Councillor T. Robinson. Those for Councillor Cousins. And those for Councillor T. Robinson. Right, that's Councillor T. Robinson 31, Councillor Cousins 25. So that's Councillor T. Robinson. Next, and obviously I have an interest in this one and will be voting as well, for the Everest Community Academy Management Group, we have 2 places and 3. So those for Councillor Mrs. Frankham.
2 votes.
2 votes, sorry, 2 votes. Those for Councillor Mrs. Frankham. Fixed. Right.
Did you know?
No, complete surprise to me.
60 or 59? 59? $56. 56.
Right.
54.
Okay.
54.
Right. Okay. And now, Councillor Mrs. Westbrook, and I get a second vote. Don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Councillor Frost. Yeah, you got those.
Right.
And then you got,
And those for Councillor Frost, please show.
Can you just clarify that Councillor Godson has only voted 2 times and not
Yes.
3 times.
Councillor Godison, could I ask, have you only voted 2? I don't blame you. Okay. Thank you.
31. So Frankham 54, Frost 31, so those 2.
Okay. All right. That's Councillor Mrs Frankham 54, Councillor Westbrook 26 and Councillor Frost 31. So it's Councillor Mrs Frankham and Councillor Frost. Thank you. Right, one more yellow, which is Sentinel Housing, and we have 2. Is that 1 main and 1 deputy? Or should we go for the main first, which is Councillor James and Councillor Golding, because Councillor Sherlock only wishes to do deputy. So it's Councillor James and Councillor Golding. If there's 2, why would they not be those 2?
No, because that shouldn't be there. That's confusing. So
Right.
you're fine. So it's 1 vote. So it's just
All right,
for
so
Mrs.
it is 1.
Yeah, Councillor
All right, it's quite misleading. Okay, those for Councillor Mrs James.
Yeah.
25, okay. Councillor Golding. So I don't call that one because he only wants a deputy.
You ask Councillor Miss James if she loses, does she
Right.
want to consider being
Yeah.
deputy? And if so,
Okay.
then it's a vote.
Right, Councillor James 25, Councillor Golding 32. That leaves me with the question, Councillor Miss James, would you like to go forward for the deputy? Right, so then we vote for the...
The deputy, so votes for Councillor Miss James and then votes for Councillor Sherlock.
Right, so let's vote again then for Councillor Mrs James for deputy.
Can I ask people to keep their hands up just to make it easier?
Yeah, could you keep your hands up? They're still counting. Right. And for Councillor Sherlock. Councillor Sherlock 31, Councillor James 24. Councillor Sherlock will be the deputy. I now intend to go back and to do all the highlighted in blue, starting with the Basingstoke Musical Festival, and that is,
One vacancy.
there's a vacancy. Do we have any nominations for the vacancy? Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Andrew McCormick.
Right, Councillor Andrew McCormick.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other? Then I
Is
would
that
say
agreed?
Councillor McCormick agreed.
Well, that's
Yes,
the
that
council.
agreed? Right. Over the page. The Festival Management Board, subgroup of the Destination Basingstoke. There are 3 vacancies, and we have Councillor Pearson Reid and 1 vacancy. Would anybody like to fill that vacancy? No, that vacancy remains then. And we have 1 more, which is relate to North Hampshire. And we have 2, so we have a vacancy because Councillor Pearce is on that. So is there anybody else that would like to go forward for that? No?
Stay vacant.
Okay. All the rest are uncontested. So on the white, are we all agreed with all that's left on the white? Agreed? Yes, Councillor Jones.
On the football club, Basingstoke Football Club, we asked 4 years ago when I was put on it, and I was told by the councillor before me that she never sat on one. I haven't sat on one for that period of time. The management team was supposed to find out, I don't know whether it was cabinet or whoever, whether this still exists as a position, but we would like to know, because there's things been going on last year about the football club. We were never informed whether it's part of our thing or not. You know, if we're trying to do a job, can we find out if they want us? If they don't, that's fine. But when stuff is being proposed for the Basingstoke Football Club, it would be nice to consult with the councillors who are on the board, even though we don't sit. Thank you.
Yes, I'm aware of that ongoing one, and I think you're perfectly right, and I think we'll take that back.
Yeah, and provide a written response.
All right. Sorry?
I think we should provide a written response to council.
Yes, I think, and we will provide you with a written response. Actually, I think it should go to all members. We now go on to item 17. Notices of motions, there have none been received. So item 18 is to receive the minutes of the following meetings that are in your paper. I intend to take those on block. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Hallelujah. Right. Now we go to item 19, which is the last item. Questions from members of the council on notice. I have one, and that's Councillor Harvey. Would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Reading the devolution agreement document to be tabled at the Cabinet meeting next week, it states that the directly elected mayor will have powers over strategic planning and housing, including the responsibility for creating a spatial planning framework for the heart of Hampshire. Can I ask the leader what mandate from this council chamber was given to the leader and the chief executive to enter into negotiations about the formation of the Heart of Hampshire Authority, which is predicated on agreeing a directly elected mayor with such powers?
Leader, would you respond, please?
Madam Mayor, could I refer Councillor Harvey to my response to the earlier question from Mr Heath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I ask a supplementary,
Do you have
please?
a supplementary?
I do. I've got a problem with what's been said by the leader tonight, because it really begs the question, what in the world was that letter all about? Because the letter to the DCLG states quite clearly that we, as in the leader, has agreed to enter into negotiations with the DCLG with a predication that there will be a directly elected mayor. We have conceded to the DCLG in the letter that we predicate our negotiations with them on the basis of a directly elected mayor. There was no mandate given, no vote, no debate thus far on this issue that gave the leader the right to do that. And it is duplicitous and disingenuous in the context of what has been said this evening. Because, let me finish, it is disingenuous if you go in on the basis of what the leader says, where we are negotiating, perhaps, maybe, not, if, then why say it so definitely in the letter? And what if they say yes? What if the DCLG come back and say, yes, we agree to negotiate with you, and thank you very much for agreeing to a directly elected mayor. That's the basis on which we will now move forward. Where does that leave us? And the duplicity is to do with the Hampshire County Council. That is a concern raised this evening by the leader, and I do agree. What in the earth is Hampshire County Council doing in the context of trying to be a good partner? Don't they ever cause us the problems, Hampshire County Council? Don't they ever leave us in difficult positions? Well, here we go again. I take what the leader says, and would ask of him,
Sorry, under what point of order?
It's under the item in the, which relates to questions in the...
and I would ask of him,
there should be 1 minute taken for the supplementary question, and so far had 1 minute, 45
I think I've made my point.
Right. Can I just say that I have the timing in front of me, which the officers have done, and according to the officers, he still has time.
Do you want to ask the leader to respond?
Pardon?
Do you want to ask the leader to respond to the supplementary?
We still have time now for the leader to respond to the supplementary.
Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Harvey's being a little economical with the truth in the way he quotes various things from this document that he talks about. What the document actually says in the detailed paragraph is that any directly elected mayor will exercise strategic planning powers for creating a non-statutory spatial framework. In other words, there is no framework that is statutory, and that it would have to be, in any case, be agreed to by a unanimous vote of the members of the constituent council. We would retain a veto. There are plenty of other examples in there whereby it makes it very clear that no powers are being transferred from the constituent councils to the mayoralty, that no powers are being given up by constituent councils unless they choose to do so for very good reasons. And there's all sorts of documents in there which also say that this is a subject for discussion. It is not by in any way an agreement that we would agree to anything. I think, thank you. I think Councillor Harvey's being disingenuous if he thinks that's the way that negotiation takes place. He's no doubt a very experienced negotiator, but in my experience, that isn't the way you go forward. You put something forward on the condition that something else happens. It's the only way that you make progress. Otherwise, you just find you're sitting there looking at one another, restating the same old arguments over and over again. There's a significant amount of detail in all this, which is why we've signalled we're going to bring a paper to full council. The announcement to be made tomorrow by the leader of the county council, regardless of what you might choose to think about the county council or not, changes the landscape against which this will be developed. We shall have to consider what is the best way forward in this new landscape. What we are trying to do is to achieve the best possible result for the citizens of this borough. And that, I would hope, could be something which we could all try and work together on, rather than throwing accusations backwards and forwards about duplicity and various other points, or for that matter, making accusations against Hampshire County Council. Thank you.
That concludes my first meeting, and thank you for your patience. I look forward to further meetings over in the year, and I would hope that we have well-run and orderly meetings. Thank you.